Hi, my name's Iain White. I'm Professor of Environmental Planning at the University of Waikato. My professorial lecture is going to be on flooding, how we manage floodwater, and if we know so much about it, why do we seem to be getting more floods which are happening more frequent and more severe? So the heading is essentially about knowledge of flooding. How our knowledge has grown over the 20th century and the start of the 21st. We've never known as much about flooding as we do right now. And yet the more we know, the more our gaps of knowledge are exposed about what we don't know. So it's like when you explore a topic for the first time, you don't realize how much you don't know until you look into it. So it's about that. It's about the way that knowledge is constructed, how it's been used by different disciplines and applied to manage flooding. And yet we've got quite big holes in how we manage water. And so it's looking at the flooding water as a resource, how it's managed, but also what we can do about it. So how do we respond to such an uncertain situation? Well, I've been involved in flooding for around 15 years now. And the main talk, or the main focus of the talk that we're going to be discussing at my professorial is going to be about a grant I received where we looked at flood resilient buildings. So because we can't predict all floods and we know that there's certain buildings which we should protect to a higher standard than others, to what extent can we make buildings themselves their own flood defence to keep water out? And so we looked at technologies and we looked at the pathways for implementation and the various barriers around, because although they worked in practice, these technologies weren't being used. So why is that? If they were so good, shouldn't we use them more? And so it's looking at why citizens in particular were uncertain about this technology, and looked at how we worked with stakeholder groups to try and facilitate their implementation. And that was in 7 different countries across Europe. So why should the public come to this lecture? Well, I think they can learn more about flooding, how it's been managed, by whom, and how that's changed over time. They'll also learn about how to make buildings flood resilient, which is pretty cool. And they'll also understand a lot more about why we can't manage flooding and why we can't predict all events and why the future is pretty uncertain. And it's only becoming more so. We've got population growth, urbanisation, Auckland's expanding at a very fast rate. All the water's got to go somewhere. So it really means that we have to manage water more creatively and think around problems in new ways than we've done in the past. And so we'll explore some of those ways and new ways in which water can be managed. So I'd like to encourage anyone who's interested in this topic, who'd like to know more about flooding or how we can manage floods or how things might be improved in the future, come along to the Gallagher Centre of Performing Arts and 6 p.m, Tuesday the 18th of November, and it'll be great to see you there.
The University of Waikato, where the world is going.